Hey everyone, I'm John, and today we're talking about the top 10 programming languages that you should learn in 2021. Now, a big disclaimer here. This video is data-driven. It's going to take things from surveys, reports, and analytics that we find on the internet. It's not going to have much opinion from me personally, but rather to help you understand what the market looks like today. These are reports like Slashdata, Hackerrank, Stack Overflow, GitHub Octoverse. There's a lot of different places that we're sourcing our data from. And each one of these sources kind of has similarities that make this list really reliable in my opinion. Now, before we jump into it, I want to talk about how many developers are actually in the world. Slashdata suggests that there are about 21 million developers that are working today. There's about 4.7 million in the US and 4.1 in the EU. Now, that's a lot of developers, but towards like the global population or even the US population, that's not that many people. Okay, we're gonna jump into the list because I don't wanna bore you with the details. I wanna talk about each one as they come up. Number one shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. It's JavaScript. JavaScript has 12.4 million developers today. As you may know, a lot of people have opinions on JavaScript, but that's because it's very simple. It has tons of docs and tons of support, and it's the most popular client-side language that's really in existence today. Whenever you're using a browser, you're using JavaScript. And JavaScript has become really popular recently with libraries like React and Vue and Angular. These libraries make building on the web a bit easier and a little bit more organized. But you also have what's known as TypeScript, and TypeScript is a typed version of JavaScript. And many of these libraries are actually switching over to use TypeScript under the hood. So it is fair to say that JavaScript and JavaScript-like languages fit all under this umbrella. That includes TypeScript. Okay, number two, Python. Python has absolutely exploded in the last 5 years. It's easy to read, beginner friendly, and it has so much application in data science today. This is really accessible to new programmers in general. A lot of what you need to know to do programming in the first place is all abstracted from you. So when you're learning a new concept, it's really easy to grok. And at 9 million developers today, I believe that Python is going to overtake JavaScript in the next 5 years. Okay, number three is Java. Java has around 8.2 million developers today. Java was the original portable language that you can basically build and run anywhere. And due to it being object-oriented and also not needing memory management, it was quite attractive in regard to not using like C++ or C. So overall, it is a great general purpose language and it is widely used everywhere. Okay, number four is C#. And C# has around 6 million developers today. Now C# is really similar to Java. In fact, most people would probably call it Microsoft's Java. C# has a really rich ecosystem and a growing language as well. But it can also be used for building video games with Unity. And C# is really portable as well because it can run anywhere with .NET Core. All right, number five is PHP. And PHP probably has around 6 million developers as well. Now, PHP has a lot of roots from C, and it kind of served as like the traditional backend for most websites. And PHP can be substituted with Python on pretty much most use cases. Okay, number six is C++. And C++ has about 5.2 million developers. C++ is extremely fast language. It's way more safe than C, especially with your memory management. But it is quite hard to learn. C++ is when you need speed. This is typically in like game engine development, financial processing, and maybe even cryptocurrency. Number seven is C. This is probably the fastest language that you can use, but it's also not that safe and you don't want to be writing assembly. This is like the grandfather language where all the other languages were heavily inspired from it. So when you need something that's really fast and lightweight, you'd probably choose C. It has that old adage of easy to learn, but really hard to master. Number eight is Swift. And around 2.4 million developers are using Swift. Now, Swift was created by Apple, I want to say like 6 years ago or something like that. And this has been developed all in open source. And Swift is built with performance in mind. One of the biggest platforms that Swift is used on are Apple platforms, iOS, macOS, and so on. You can kind of think of Swift as like the best of C and also Objective-C. And you'll even see Swift be used for like deep learning with TensorFlow. Okay, number nine is Kotlin. And at about 2.3 million developers, Kotlin is growing quite quickly as well. Now, Kotlin is developed by JetBrains, and it also started as an open source programming language. The idea of Kotlin was to be a more concise language than Java. But the cool thing about Kotlin is that it is interoperable with Java 100% of the way. Kotlin has the potential to be like the next cross-platform language, in my opinion, because you can already develop applications for like the backend or front ends of websites, but also it is Android's default language used today. And you have other initiatives like Kotlin Native, where you can run Kotlin natively on every single architecture. So this means that it can run pretty much anywhere and also apply to things like data science and deep learning as well. And last but not least, coming in at number 10 is Ruby. Ruby has around 1.5 million developers. Now, Ruby is a scripting language that was kind of built from the ground up to run web applications. So Ruby is interpreted rather than compiled. So although I don't really know much about Ruby, I do know that Ruby kind of revolutionized the web development world that we know today. Ruby, and especially Ruby on Rails, has kind of trailblazed the path for all these other languages and ecosystems to help developers build great applications. So while Ruby might not be a top contender on this list, although it is number 10, Ruby is still a great choice for web development. So those are the top 10 programming languages that I think you should learn in 2021. If you want to see how I came to the conclusions of that list, feel free to check out my live stream from just last week. Now, regardless of whatever language you decide to choose, any of these languages in the top 10 are a safe pick. There's plenty of support for each of these languages, rich documentation, frameworks, and you name it, you can build something with them. These are the languages that I would give to anybody and say, pick one, find one that you love, and you'll be employable for the rest of your life. I personally believe that programming languages should be used more as a tool. You use the best tool for your job. And nowadays, with every programming language that can do basically all the jobs you need to do, pick the one that you love. And that's the end of this video today. If you like this type of content, feel free to drop a like and subscribe and comment on this video about what language that you're going to learn in 2021.